So what I wanted to talk about today is you got your first bike, or it's been a while since you've ridden, and you want to know the most basic starting procedure to get on your bike, start it up, get it running, and get moving. In later videos, I'll cover some more advanced techniques of how to ride, little tips and tricks, and those might suit you better if you're a more experienced rider. So this is your bike. You either just bought it or you just upgraded and you want to learn how to get from it being stationary to moving. So most bikes are going to have the kickstand on the left side as such. And what you're going to do is you approach the bike. I told you this was basic. You put as much weight on your left leg as you can, and you swing your right leg over the back of the bike. Now, if you need to, you can hold on to the gas tank for support as such. Now, what I tend to do, I've been riding for a little while, whenever I swing my right leg over, I'm holding on to the gas tank. I usually go ahead and push my weight into the seat a little bit, and I right the bike up. I don't touch the handlebars, I just swing the bike up. But what I'm going to recommend to you as a beginner at riding a motorcycle is to swing your leg over and just sit on the bike. Now what you can do, and this is especially true if it's a heavier bike, is take the handlebars, and usually it's going to be like this, and you can use the leverage of the handlebars with them being higher up on the bike, as well as turning the wheel itself to wrench the bike up like this. Be careful not to push too hard and topple over to the right. That wouldn't be good. Okay, so we're on the bike, we've got the bike stood up. Now what you're going to do, sit yourself on the seat, use your left leg, kick the kickstand up. Do not remove your feet from the ground, you will fall over. I have done it before. You'd be surprised what you forget whenever you're first starting to ride motorcycles. Okay, so next step, we're going to turn the ignition key on. It goes through its little setup process here. You can see that there's a big green N for neutral in my gear indicator box. Not every bike has that. Every bike that I have ever ridden has this little light down here that shows green N for neutral. Now, if you shift up to first gear, you can see that goes away. Even if you didn't have a gear indicator, you should have at least that light. Unless it's a very, very old bike or some kind of street racer, cafe racer kind of homemade bike, and whoever built it just didn't add that in. So we're going to make sure it's in neutral. If your bike is in another gear, you pull in on the clutch, kick once up for neutral. On this bike, it's a little bit different. So usually it's neutral, 1 down for first gear, and 5 up for 2 through 6. With this bike, it has something called reverse shift, GP shift, race shift, whatever name you want to put on it. I've reversed the order of the gears. We'll get into that later of why I did that, but on this bike, it's 1 up, 5 down instead of 1 down, 5 up. But on your bike, it's most likely 1 down, 5 up. So now we're in neutral. The ignition's on, we're in neutral, the kickstand's up, we're on the bike. We're stable, both of our feet are planted well on the ground. No warning lights on the dash, everything looks good. You're going to flip your run switch from stop to run. Some bikes have a push button start, some bikes like this one, they integrate the run and stop switch into one button. So we're going to hold run down until the engine fires up just like a car. So now we're running. We're in neutral, the engine's running, we're ready to set off. So one of the hardest things that you're going to learn whenever you first start to ride a bike is how to get moving, especially if you have a heavier bike or a particularly difficult clutch for whatever reason it may be. The trick is to find the bite point in the clutch. So this is your clutch lever over here. We're in neutral, so nothing's happening. There's going to be a certain point on every bike, and every bike it's unique, where the clutch will begin to bite. And that is dependent upon the clutch cable, the clutch plates, the lever setup, the make and model of your bike. Even within the same model family, each bike is a little bit different. So you have to learn your own personal bike, your own specific bike. Now, the way that you can find this bite point is we're going to pull in on the clutch lever, shift the bike into first gear, and don't give it any gas at all. My hand is off the gas. Now, release it just a little bit. There's my bite point. We're starting to roll. Pull it back in, release it again. We're starting to roll. So that's my bite point. A good way to practice this is to rock the bike back and catch yourself with the clutch. Rock the bike back, catch yourself with the clutch. Now, I'm going to shift it back into neutral for a minute. Neutral can be hard to find. It's a half gear essentially between first and second, and sometimes whenever you're trying to get to neutral, it'll go straight through neutral and go into second gear, and vice versa. It'll go from second to first instead of into neutral. This is especially true if you're moving and you're coming to a stoplight. You're not necessarily supposed to put it in neutral when you're coming to a stop at a light, but a lot of people do, and it can be difficult to find neutral at speed. The bike inherently wants to go into gear. That's just the way they make the gearbox, the transmission. Now, it's going to be different for everyone's bike depending on how heavy the bike is, how much power it has, the power to weight ratio, and the clutch itself, regarding whether or not you need to give gas to your bike to get it moving. With this specific bike, it has enough power with a low enough weight, with a sticky enough clutch, that I don't have to give it any gas at all to get moving. I can just slowly ease the clutch out without applying any gas at all, and the bike will begin to move. Some bikes, like a heavier bike, such as a Harley Ultra Glide, a Honda Goldwing, you may have to give it a little bit of gas, but we're not talking about that. We're talking just a little bit of gas, just a little bit, just a touch, just enough to keep the engine from stalling while you're letting out the clutch. And what you're going to do is simultaneously, while you're finding the bite point of the clutch, you're going to slowly ease on the gas. So with this bike, as I said, we're going to shift it into first, and I'm not going to give any gas at all, and we're going to get moving. No gas whatsoever, and we're moving. You can pull in the clutch. That disengages the transmission, the drive wheel, from the engine itself. And you can come to a stop by carefully grabbing the brakes. Now, if you wanted to start off a little quicker, or if you had a heavier bike, you could give it a little bit of gas and you would launch faster. And it also enables you to have a little bit smoother takeaway. A lot of times, even if the bike has a good power to weight ratio, you'll still end up needing to give it a little bit of gas just to keep from lugging the engine too much, because it'll make for a rough getaway.